If you love movies, you're here in the right place, and that place is here at the Chronicle. And welcome to episode 65. My name is Paul. I am the editor of the People's Movies, and I'm also the host for the Chronicle. And I'm getting joined by two folks this week. I'm joined by Rosie and one of our other writers at the People's Movies. It's Danny. How are you guys?
Good.
Good, thank you. Great to
Uh,
be here.
Yeah, we finally got you on board. That's great. And Rosie, thank you very much for last week, taking over at the very last minute. As you could probably hear, the throat's okay. You guys did really great. Thank you, Ibrahim and Lottie. That is the episode 64 of the podcast, which was about the Odyssey. So on today's episode, as you heard at the beginning there, we're going to talk about Spider-Man Brand New Day. So, Danny, would you like to just tell us what the film's about? Just a little bit about it, just to get people up to scratch, what it's about.
Yeah, of course. So, Spider-Man Brand New Day is the latest film in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and it follows on from Peter Parker having to live a very lonely life after the events of the previous Spider-Man film, and it's showing the repercussions of his time as a full-time Spider-Man with very minimal friends and family to interact with. But as the demands intensify, the pressure really starts to get to him and causes a bit of a physical evolution that threatens his entire existence. And also, some of the most powerful threats he's ever faced appear in this movie for him to go up against.
So, Danny, what did you think about it? How was the
I
movie?
thought I thought it was a really good film. I will caveat for the whole podcast episode that I went to see it in 4D, so
Ooh.
had a mildly different experience compared to a lot of the cinema goers that will be seeing it this weekend. But I had a lot of fun, and I think it was really added to by the fact that I was flying at the same time as Spider-Man.
Yeah, flying through Glasgow.
Yeah, yeah, of
Well, yeah,
course.
yeah. Obviously, folks, there's an opening scene where Peter Parker, Spider-Man's chasing a tank. It's right at the beginning of the film. We're not spoiling it because it's in the trailer. That is Glasgow. And if you've also seen the Running Man, it's also the same street. And I think this happened last September. This Spider-Man. At the same time, I live in the town right next door to Glasgow, Paisley, which is Gerard Butler country. We were recording. Francis McDermott and Josh O'Connor were in town for, is it Blackjack? It's one of the Coen brothers. It's an Apple movie. They were recording there in Paisley. And soon as Spider-Man moved out, they moved in. And from today we're recording on the 1st of August, the Batman 2 is now in town. So Glasgow's now about to become Gotham City. But we've got a few years to wait for that. So sorry about that.
The place to
Digress.
be.
Yeah, it is exactly. Exactly. So Rosie, what did you think of it?
I enjoyed it. It wasn't fully what I expected it to be. I think we've become so used to seeing Peter take on all these like massive challenges that this one is very grounded, very street level. And obviously there are some really powerful people that he's still up against, but it was very much the streets of New York or Glasgow. Um,
Yeah.
and it stayed in that. And I don't think we've seen him really, at least Tom Holland's Peter, in that kind of situation before. Um, and obviously, like I will say now that this will probably get into spoilers because not much was revealed about the film before it came out. So I think
Yeah.
there will be things that we will say that will be spoilers here. But I almost thought it was quite akin to Thunderbolts in some ways, and I really loved Thunderbolts with the theming and things like that. So I did enjoy it in the end, but it was definitely a different experience to what we're used to seeing Tom Holland's Peter Parker get up to.
Yeah, me myself, yeah, I enjoyed it as well. Uh, when I saw the press screening, I just saw the normal screen. Which is just as good as 4D and IMAX as well. For the IMAX, that'll be whoa. If you're scared of heights, I think you'll need a doctor after it. I don't know about you guys, but see, sometimes if you watch a movie and right after, you just got to keep thinking about it.
Mm.
Sometimes, say you going, that's going to be a 4 star. You'll ask yourself, is it really a 4 star? Is it a three? Because it's making you still reflect about it. This was one of
Yeah.
these movies that I I was just reflecting too much, and the people around me, they were asking me, "Do you think?" They all loved it, and I says that I need to think about it. There's a lot I liked it, and there's a few things I didn't like it. However, that was that was earlier in the week. I did really enjoy it because I think this is probably the out of all the Spider-Mans, the Tom Holland ones especially. This is probably one of the most emotionally charged ones
Mm.
because and it shows his isolation and he's got all these powers, and he has to learn how to embrace them, how to use them properly, but also. Folks, as Rosie said there might be some spoilers. We don't do it deliberately, but apologies if we do. We'll try our best not to. There's he just wants to help. He's a friendly neighbourhood spider, and he obviously the cop. I forget her name. Was it something the Wolf in it? The New York cop. He helps
Mm.
out quite a lot. He just wanted to help, and then at one point he starts to get these headaches and things, and he's what's going on here, and then obviously something happens, and it just sort of shows you his determination, how he really wants to succeed, type things, and I think it also showed that why I think Tom Holland is probably the perfect Peter Parker. He's probably like obviously as I said last week you spoke about the Odyssey that
Yes.
she was in. This is in a way, folks, is a mini reunion, Odyssey reunion, because obviously Jon Bernthal was in it as Frank Castle, the Punisher, and obviously Tom Holland's wife, Zendaya, she's in it as well. She's MJ, so it's a little bit about like that, and that's how Telemachus. I can't even say that name right. You can see his naivety there, but here he's more mature. His character suits it. He suits Peter Parker a lot more than he did in the Odyssey. Don't get me wrong; he was still solid in the Odyssey, and you see his maturity. How at times when we first met him. He was jumping into things. Don't get me wrong, there's times you did see him jumping in, but this time he's stepping back and he's using his AI system. By the way, did you know it was Naomi Watts was voiced Evie, which is AI
Yeah,
system?
I saw about that. And she's played his mum before, I think, as well.
Yep, she played his first on-screen mum in The Impossible. That was the one. I think it
Mm.
was with Ewan McGregor, but the disastrous the tsunamis that hit Asia back about nearly 20 years ago. I think the film was made maybe about 15, 16 years ago. I can't remember exactly, and as I said, you really felt his pain, he really he felt like a student because there's a point he goes to meet a certain person. We do know this person's in. I'm not going to really mention. He goes to meet this certain person for advice to control things that's happening to him, and he just didn't jump into things. That was the sort of thing. So, yourself, Danny, what else did you like about it?
I think the thing that was really interesting about the film for me is that obviously the previous film closed out the opening trilogy for Tom Holland's Peter Parker, and where Marvel and the cinematic universe is sitting at the moment is that there's a lot of pressure on where films are going to be and where those films and stories are going to go. And they managed to make a movie that continued to build on the previous trilogy whilst also very clearly setting up for the next stories. And I think we got to give them credit for doing that because they've done that in a time where there is an unbelievable amount of pressure in order to do this from fans, and they did it successfully. And it's clear that their approach is paying off because the box office numbers are absolutely incredible. I mean, I saw earlier today that it's on track to beat Endgame domestically, on the opening weekend, which I don't think people really thought was going to
No,
happen.
no, I don't. No, I don't think so. Well, I think the only other films that might beat it are the Avengers Doomsday and then the obviously Secret Wars, which is that. I think
Mm.
that's next year in it. That's out. Uh,
Well, Doomsday's December.
yeah, yeah, that's right. December.
Well, it's already in America. It did better on Thursday and Friday.
Wow.
Mm.
and then Endgame did.
I think it
And it's
shows as
also
well, like, oh, sorry. I was just gonna say that Spider-Man is like probably one of the most beloved
Yeah.
like Marvel heroes, and it really shows. I mean, we've seen so many iterations of him in both live action and animated forms, and people will always show out. I mean, even the Marvel films we've had before this, like Thunderbolts and Fantastic Four, they are newer characters, some of them, and people just aren't showing up the same way that they would for this. It's not even just that it's Marvel, it's that it's Spider-Man, I think.
I think the other thing that's really interesting about the box office, if you wanted to go full sort of film nerd with it, is just how well it's doing in China because, China has
Yeah.
historically been a really crucial part of success in terms of worldwide box office. And, you know, No Way Home did not get shown there at all because of disputes about the final act. So it's the first Spider-Man film they've really seen there since Far From Home, and it's done unbelievably well. I mean, in the time period between Far From Home and this film being released, the biggest American superhero film release that was there was Venom: The Last Dance, which got like $9 million on its opening weekend, whereas this film was already on past 30. So it's just showing that, like Rosie said, that he's such a likable character that it's doing well everywhere and it's blowing everyone out of the water. It's on track to be like the third highest post-COVID opening of all time, which is unbelievable.
Obviously, as you know, guys, I'm a little bit older than both of yous. When I was in my teens, early 20s, I was a comic book nerd. So you're talking late 80s into the 90s, and Spider-Man was the comic I got. Like it was Amazing Spider-Man, Spectacular Spider-Man, Web of Spider-Man. Then a few years later, there was the Todd McFarlane Spider-Man. They were the titles, you know. That's how when the films came out, obviously the earlier films, the Sam Raimi films. I was saying, oh, Sinister Six. That was me. No, like you see, just kept going Sinister Six, and then obviously they didn't cut. Well, they came in dribs and drabs, you know. And that's how I thought we are going to get this. So Spider-Man to me was always, as you said, Rosie. Yeah, he's up there with the Captain Americas. Fantastic Four. They are a lot older, but I don't think they've been given the right sort of proper sort of old school type
Mm.
of traditional. The Fantastic Four film last year, yeah, it did it in moments, but it wasn't perfect. But it was a lot better than the other two films that we had, which were absolute awful. Fantastic Fours, we even talk about them, So that's why when Spider-Man out of all the comic book films when they all started up, that was the one film that I was so excited about. I don't know about you guys.
I think the really interesting thing about the Spider-Man franchise as a whole is that obviously where Marvel as an entity over the years has sold off its movie rights to various different entities. Obviously, they're all sort of back within Disney to some degree now. Spider-Man is really the only franchise that has had multiple semi-successful film franchises that has allowed every generation to have a Spider-Man. I had a conversation with my dad about, Superman really being that character, you know, back when he was growing up, but where the Superman franchises just haven't necessarily worked out in the same way compared to the likes of a Spider-Man, it's enabled Spider-Man to have this popularity that just dwarfs everyone else's. Fantastic Four, X-Men, they were huge at one point in terms of films, but where the momentum disappeared compared to the likes of Spider-Man, it's just meant that Spider-Man is overpowered in terms of the box office because everyone loves the character.
Yeah. As in the characters, villain wise, are we going to say anything about who Sadie Sink is played in this? I know it's by the time we've recorded this, I think a lot of people will know. Should we tell them? Should we
I
mention it?
think we might as well. We might as well say it got revealed before the film came out anyway
Yeah.
by Steve Lacy.
Yep. That name shall not be mentioned again. That's up there with the Fantastic Four films. Yep. She's Jean Grey, and she's got connections with a lot of groups in the Marvel universe, especially the X-Men. She's part of that. But what I'm wondering Obviously, as we know, Avengers Doomsday's coming up, and James Marsden, he's Cyclops, and if I remember rightly, Jean Grey is his wife. However, this is where I'm thinking. There's a lot of Easter eggs in this film. I can't remember them all, but all precise. As I started listening to a couple and reading a couple of reviews, I'm wondering, see this in the Marvel universe. There's a lot of timelines going, as obviously we know the last few films, but I'm wondering, is this Spider-Man Brand New Day, on the same timeline as the last Avengers films, or before all Thanos clicked his fingers? I'm wondering because there's a lot of things in this Spider-Man. One at the very beginning, folks, is when we see Peter sitting in his little room and he's on his computer, he's doing his sort of one thing about this film. It goes back to the comic book roots with his crime fighting, and so he's on his computer, well, obviously with a modern twist, and he's tracking these people he's looking for. You see on the side, there's a machine fixing his uniform, his suit. But it wasn't anything from Stark Industries. Tony Stark, who, as we know from the early movies, was Tom Holland, Peter Parker's mentor, which makes me wonder, is this the same timeline? Because
Mm,
whatever,
I
go
oh,
ahead.
I was gonna say I feel like that may have just been like an oversight potentially. I think it probably is the same universe because everything's continued on from each other.
Yeah,
But there is something that Peter does in this film that will have a monumental potential impact on the future Avengers films and X-Men films. Um, Almost like some people have been comparing it to almost an Oppenheimer like effect. He doesn't do it deliberately, but he's created something that is pretty
ah,
monumental, if you know what I'm getting at.
yes. Is that the thing he goes to speak to a certain doctor at a university?
Yes.
Yes,
Yes.
yeah.
And he basically hands that over to the damage control unit. So I think we're gonna see some pretty interesting impacts in the next few Avengers films potentially from that.
Mm. Ah, that's an interesting fact. As in the reason why he was doing it, I was a wee little bit lost about what it was doing to him. I was thinking it was going to be a certain Cenobite, which we've mentioned before. I thought it was going to be him going to come in there, or that was going to come into it a little bit, because there is a few stories, where obviously Peter Parker gets taken over by the Cenobite until obviously
Mm.
Tom Hardy's character takes, because obviously it's the same universe as well. I thought it was going to be something like that, but he doesn't really explain it as much. I don't know what you guys thought. What about you,
I would
Danny?
love to see I would love to see him go a little bit crazier than he did go in this film. Um and I think there is potential for that in future ones as well.
Yeah. What do you think,
I
Danny?
thought I thought it was interesting because a large portion of this film's premise is based on the fact that in the previous film everyone forgets who he is, and because those characters that forget who he is are so beloved to fans, they had this sort of delicate balancing act that they tried to do where they had to find a way for them to remember who Peter Parker is again without sort of making it too simple and obvious. And I think by having the sort of comparisons to the evolution of a spider and trying to see how him becoming more solo in his lifestyle made him more like a spider. I thought it was an interesting concept. I just think it didn't necessarily land in the way that they would want it to. I think, going into that film, that he was always going to reunite with his mates. And,
Yeah.
I think whilst they did it well, it was kind of like, I think it would have been more interesting if it was something different that was making him go a bit crazy or his powers evolve compared to, oh, everyone's forgotten who he is. He's feeling a bit lonely and now he's got black eyes and goes demon mode.
talking about his friends, without getting into too much spoiler territory, she says we know he's going to meet them. One of them, uh, I really liked. That really put the emotional power into it. You could probably guess who I'm talking about because the other friend, they sort of suss who he become, who he really is, and what happened. You know the bit
Mm.
in the little supermarket stroke cafe bar that he goes into.
Yeah,
And
like the last scene.
yes, I really liked that. That really done it. And something that the two of them do. It's that'll bring a smile to the faces of fans of the franchise, be it in print or on the big screen. There's one other thing I was going to mention. I was when I was talking about the timeline here. Was there's a group in here, and you see Spider-Man fighting them in the sort of monologue part he does near the beginning, and then when they get to damage control, they're there again. Is the hand?
Mm.
If I
Yeah.
remember rightly. It might have been the Disney Daredevil series there, or the Punisher one off. Is that not the group at Elektra who come back
Yeah,
into it? Is that not who she's in charge of?
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. It is.
yeah. 'Cause the reason I was thinking that is because I believe it's Spider-Man. This is only a few months after the events of the previous movie, which make this movie about it's set 2 years ago. So I haven't seen the Disney Daredevil sees, but I've read about it, you know. So yeah, it is. So it made me think. I think there's a lot of things in this film that are connected to characters in the Marvel world, and it makes me wonder, folks. I'm not going to say what it is. There is an end credit scene. Until you see something that happens in the movie, you'll understand it. Something in there makes me think it can maybe connect to either Avengers Doomsday or Avengers Secret War, or
Yeah.
another character from the same Spider universe who people will love to see in a live action version. However, due to a certain actor who appeared in the last movie in a car park scene, they really need to wait to the spoil it anyway. This
Well,
other
I
act
think I
Spider-Verse.
think I don't know if it will be that. I would love to see that. I think there has almost been almost full confirmation that one of the other Spider-Men may potentially, who has recently been in one of the films, will potentially be returning. Tom Holland also almost gave that away the other day in a
Yeah,
YouTube video. I would love to see that, but I think it's something that's like apparently quite difficult to do with rights and things like that. Um, like seeing Miles Morales in it. Not
yeah.
spoilery, I guess. Like we're
No,
just saying
no,
what we would like to
no, no.
see. Um, I've heard like from variety of rumors and Tom Holland himself that someone from the last film may be
You've
back.
heard from Tom Holland yourself.
Yeah.
Yes,
Oh,
yes. No,
Okay,
all right, all right.
inside
Yeah.
no.
sources.
But he said there was an interview that he did recently with a bunch of kids, um, and they asked if Toby would be back, if he was going to be in this new film, and he went no, but and then he got stopped. Which like what he's like. From other rumors as well, it seems like he may be
One thing I
popping
would
back.
say though is that I think it's really interesting that like this is the final cinematic universe film before Avengers Doomsday,
Mm,
and a lot of talk and criticism has gone out from fans that there's been, virtually minimal build up towards Doomsday for various reasons that, okay, fair enough, aren't always in Marvel's hands. But I was interested to see that there was minimal setup in the end credit scene or just the sort of film in general towards that film. I thought there would be at least some link. As you said, there is this sort of post-credit scene that could, in theory, semi-acknowledge it, but I feel like post-credit scenes have such minimal effect on things anymore, and I just feel like that one was quite a flat post-credit scene for me. I think the fans are doing a lot of heavy lifting in terms of making hype for what that post credit could
Yeah.
mean. And actually, there isn't actually much depth to it in the first place. I also think, just going back to what you said earlier, Paul, about
Yeah,
sort of links to the other films. I mean, I'm fairly sure that this film is set after Daredevil Born Again. And I
is it?
think that's kind of crazy because the whole plot of Daredevil Born Again, apologies if people haven't seen it, but is the fact that Fisk's task force are sort of just running amok in New York. And
Yeah.
then this film opens and it's like, yeah, Spider-Man's made New York the sort of safest place ever. And it's like,
It's
okay,
also
fair enough.
interesting because I think people were saying, obviously in Thunderbolts as well, that happened in New York. So people are like, the rent in New York must be cheap in this
Yeah.
world because it just seems to be terrorized constantly. So it's interesting again that they said like the streets have never been safer. I don't know where Thunderbolts comes into the timeline really, but they both have very similar um end events as well.
There's
When
been
you
quite a
compare the two
few,
scenes.
there's been quite a few interviews. I don't know, Rosie, if your good friend Tom Holland's told you this, but there's been some interviews about the fact that they've sort of chopped and changed the film numerous times. And
Mm,
Tom Holland came out and said, that there was a version that took a lot of um thoughts and feedback from test screenings that just didn't work at all. And again, I will say that I enjoyed the film and I thought it was really good, but it it did the more I've sort of sat on it, the more I do think to some degree that like it feels like a chopped and changed film. It's got a lot of interesting cameo decisions that don't really make sense. The post-credit scene is kind of rogue, and again, as I said, is being heavy lifted by the fans and the community, and it works, and it works really well, and I'm really pleased to see it's working really well. But I can't help but feel like it's getting a lot of love and grace that other films don't have purely because it's Spider-Man.
definitely.
Yeah. Yeah. As in the characters, let's have a look at the characters. Let's start with because the way the film started, uh, we met Scorpion first, Michael Mando. I was really disappointed with him. I know he's not maybe not the main villain, but after we find out who the main villain is or isn't, he sort of just disappeared. Uh, as I said, I'll admit, I've not read comics for a long, long time. When I said earlier on about when I got all the Spider-Mans, I could get all these Spider-Man, the latest episodes, all of them, for the price that you pay for one now. That's how long ago that was, you know. Now you pay about £5 for like the same size of episode. And I wasn't about him. Sadie Sink, what do you think about Sadie Sink or Michael Mando? Then Kiretu, as in performance wise, character
Sadie
wise.
Sink I thought was brilliant. I really enjoyed her performance. I felt like she was quite on par with Tom Holland. And they worked quite well together. I wasn't really sure because I haven't actually seen her in much. I never watched Stranger Things. But I've seen like the first like season or two. Um, so I was really impressed by her performance.
I really liked Sadie Sink. I think she got played by the marketing decision that Marvel made. Like, the leaks or the spoilers or the rumors about who her character was going to be happened so long ago. And actually, having seen the film, I don't really feel like it would have made a difference if I knew that in advance. And especially the way they sort of shot that first half of the film to try make it seem like it was going to be this like crazy reveal. I think she would have had a nicer intro to the Marvel Cinematic Universe if the marketing team hadn't tried to sort of pull the rug under people, because
Mm.
she was really good and there was no reason why that character needed to be a secret in this plot and this version of the movie in how it played out.
I'm
Yeah, I
sort of,
felt. Oh, sorry. I was just gonna say I felt really bad for her on the press tour. Like she
yeah.
wasn't able to answer any questions, and like as your first Marvel film, you're in there and you're like, it kind of seemed like, what is the point in her even doing these interviews?
Yeah, it made me wonder, and obviously the weekend there, they started to reveal about the X-Men, and obviously
Mm.
Sadie Frost, who's playing Emma Frost, and
Yeah,
I want,
Samara.
yeah, Samara Weaving. I am wondering if it was anything to do with that. That was the reason why they didn't really want to reveal who she was. because people just put two and two together and realised. No, I really liked her. She did well. She did really well. Michael Mando, for what he was fine, but he was just a filler character. As in the other ones, Frank Castle, who was played by Jon Bernthal. I've liked Bernthal, who's, as I said, he's in the Odyssey. I've liked him since The Walking Dead. He was fantastic in that. Even was only in it for 2 seasons, the two shorter seasons, the first two. He was fantastic, Frank Castle. And another reason I was sort of wondering why he was in it, there is a comic book issue with Spider-Man where Spider-Man actually turns into an actual spider man, if you know what I mean. And he had all the tentacles for the spider. I think that was one of the sort of last few years that happened. I wonder if this was the route they were going to go down, and this is why Frank Castle came into it. Zendaya, she was uh, she was good. She's solid, you know. She did what she needed to do, you know. And I forget the guy, is it Zach, whatever his name is? I forget his name.
Jacob.
Yeah, he's just his usual self. He's solid. He's absolutely solid there as well. So, damage control. See, before this film, did any's actually know heard about damage control? Because it's been in the Marvel Universe since 1985. I think it was Marvel Annual #1 or something like that. Any's ever heard of it?
I've heard of it because it's been referenced in other sort of TV programs, and I know they were going to do a TV series on it about one
Yeah,
point as well. But I think it's just, for me, it's one of those sort of generic entities that they'll just
yeah,
always spawn into the cinematic universe when they need to. It doesn't feel that, impactful.
yeah. What about you, Rosie? Did you have heard of them before this film?
Not that much. I think there's a few of the TV shows like I haven't
Yeah,
seen. I might have heard it referenced and forgotten because it's been a while since I've watched a lot of the Marvel stuff. But I do think it's quite an interesting like concept. I think when they went into the building and showed everything like where it was all around, I thought it was quite interesting to see what they did and how they quick they are to turn on people as well. Um, and or like utilize things. I think they had a somewhat like malicious undertone the second they were introduced, really.
yeah. So
Did either
you,
of you guys ever watch the this is niche, but I'm willing to stand by it. Did either of you guys ever watch the DC TV series that was like one season called Powerless with Vanessa Hudgens, which
No.
was
no.
basically their version of Damage Control, but it was like a sitcom.
Ah, jeez.
Oh, sounds good.
Yeah.
That
It,
sounds like a
it
switch off for me.
yeah, absolute wet socks.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you got it. I was waiting for somebody to do it. Sorry, folks. It's an in-house joke with the writers. You had to have been there when it happened. You know, reference David Corn's sweat. That's where it all came from. Yeah, I with me. Yeah, they sort of came across first as a sort of Men in Black for the Marvel Universe, and then they started to get a little bit more sinister and dark. And I thought, are they really the two villains in this film? Made me think because they did come across as villains at the end. And obviously is it Tramell Tillman?
Tillman.
His character, he was shady. He was somebody. He was like an onion. He had so many layers to him, and you didn't know which layer you were actually meeting it as well. Because he came across as very sinister. So I think we will hear a bit more about. They were basically the cleanup crew for any big incidents in
They
any of
they
the Marvel
appeared
films.
in, but the thing is, they appeared in No Way Home, Miss Marvel, and Wonder Man. And it was there was that one character that they introduced that appeared across all three, P. Cleary. And then they obviously decided it'd be more fun for Damage Control to be led by a more well-known actor, and they just sort of replaced him. But it feels really odd that they had this one character that was sort of the face across of Damage Control across the opening sort of appearances in the MCU, and then they obviously
Yeah.
went, let's make it a bigger thing and get someone more well known.
Well, you never know. You never know. They could make it into a series eventually. I think if anything, the first Avengers movie, if anyone remembers, New York got absolutely destroyed, and it probably would have been name it went in and sorted the city out, you know. So let's just say round things up and my final thoughts and the sort of rating you want to give the film. So, Danny, would you like to go first, please?
Yeah, so my final thoughts are that it's a really fun, well-rounded Spider-Man film. It's got a lot of grace with it that you would give a film purely for how much people love Spider-Man. I think I'm not confident the film will age as well as people will hope it will. But I'd still stand by that it's probably a four-star movie. It's the movie Marvel needs for its cinematic
Yeah.
universe right now, and fingers crossed they can rebuild some momentum back amongst fans. That would be my brief analysis, I think.
And Rosie?
Yeah, I gave it 4 stars as well. I think I did have some issues with it that I thought about more afterwards. I think there was a big issue I had with predictability. I think a lot of
Yeah.
the moments that could have been really tense moments, you just kind of knew that they were about to happen. So instead of it being really tense, you were just waiting for it to happen. And that happened in a few situations. I obviously don't want to say too much without spoiling because they're quite
Yeah.
big scenes. But yeah, it felt more like I was just waiting with bated breath for it to happen rather than actually being upset about those reveals. But I thought there were some brilliant performances. I really liked that it took some darker themes. The themes of mental health I think are really important, and
Yeah.
loneliness, especially continuing on. Like, we are seeing Peter at rock bottom, but we're seeing how he navigates with that, and like the messages from people around him, and that he's not fully alone. And I really like that kind of message, and that's what I really liked about Thunderbolts as well. So I think it was good. I think it'll be interesting to see what they do with Peter from here, and whether he does appear in Doomsday. I'm sure he will in Secret Wars, but to see where the character does go from here will be really interesting. But I'm seeing it again Sunday, so maybe my thoughts will change. But yeah,
Yeah.
4 stars for now.
Yeah, I'm probably going. I was landing about 3.5 to 4 stars. I probably more lean towards the 4 stars. It was a lot better than I was going to expect it to be as well. Yeah, I'm like you, Rosie. I had my issues. I thought it was a little bit overstuffed at times, and they left a lot of things that they did opened. I don't mean that maybe in a positive way. The running time could have felt potentially long because it's on for I think it's 2 hours and 25 minutes, which is roughly about 145 minutes. However, it took Spider-Man back to his old school comic book days, and that's what a lot of folks did. They went back to basics, and we've noticed this in a lot of franchises and films. They stripped everything back and went back to where people loved, why they loved these characters, why they loved these franchises, which was great. The sort of intimate part and the emotional depth of it was really, really good. It sort of gave it a very distinctive style. It was slick and some real good action scenes in it. And there was a lot of things going on in this. So yeah, I I really liked it. So I gave it 4 stars. So that's Spider-Man Brand New Day, and all three of us give it 4 stars. This is the point where we're going to give you guys a chance to let us know where we can find you online. So, Danny, would you like to let the listeners know where they can actually find you online?
Yeah, of course. So obviously I write for the People's Movies, which is, such a absolute joy.
Yeah,
But
thank
all,
you.
all the other thank you, Paul. Thank you.
Yeah, check.
But it you go.
Yeah, checkbook will be in the post. The check will be in the post.
Yeah, yeah, of course. Yeah, yeah. But in terms of other places to find me, I'm on Instagram at Popcorn and Pace, where I regularly post my views on film through my Substack, and also my journey with running. So I like to think of it as quite a broad spectrum, but someone's got to go niche, and that person's going to be me, I think.
And Rosie, thank you.
Yeah, so I'm on basically everything as at Rosie Reviews X, and then I have my own website, rosiereviews.uk, which has my blog on and my portfolio as well, and also obviously writing for the People's Movies as well.
Check will be in the post as well.
Thank you.
So, yeah, you're welcome. So, for myself, that's the People's Movies and the Chronicle. You can find us on Instagram at the People's Movie. That's probably our sort of hub on the sort of social media, but we're also on Facebook at the People's Movie and an X at the People's Movie. Maybe not post as much on there as there, But we're also over at YouTube. This is where you'll find episodes of the podcast also there. And other things like interviews and trailers and everything in between over there. So do sign up and follow us on all the sort of social medias. You can also listen to the Chronicle wherever you get your podcasts. That's including Spotify, Apple, Amazon Music, Podbean, which is our sort of main HQ for the podcast, YouTube as well. And the conversation doesn't end here. Do keep an eye on the sort of social channels and the People's Movies for future episodes of the Chronicle Take 2, where we continue sometimes the discussion. Don't forget, obviously, subscribe to our email newsletter. You'll find a link over at the People's Movies Act, where you'll stay up to date with any podcasts that we do and the reviews, festivals, everything we do over at the website. If you can show your support for the website and the podcast, we buy me a coffee and also PayPal. The links are at the website as well. Another fantastic way you can support us is sharing this episode with your friends and family and fellow film lovers. And if you're listening on one of those big podcast websites that I mentioned there, why not leave us a rating or a review? It really does help other people to discover where the website is. That is your wrap for episode 65 of The Chronicle. Thank you very much for Sony and Marvel for letting us watch this film, which is now out in cinemas worldwide. Just look at your local listings for that. Danny, thank you very much. Rosie, thank you very much. And thank you very much for you guys for listening, for spending time with us. Until the next time, enjoy the movies.